What are you doing in the car with him, boy?
Blah 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 blah.
Hello there, and welcome back to my garage, and welcome to my new channel. It's actually a revamping of an old channel, but welcome back. I wanted to explain why I'm doing a second channel and answer a question at the same time. So I had a question this week that I found a little offensive from a coworker who said something along the lines of, why you got so much black stuff on your channel? I had to think about that because I didn't think I had a lot of black stuff on my channel, and I'm not quite sure what black stuff is supposed to mean. There was a black guy asking me this. Apparently he was a little offended by it. Oh well. So I want to tell a story that kind of answers that question. I'm 46 and got my driver's license in the early 90s, and my first car was what you would call a hoopty. Back then, the big, wide, low cars from the 60s were cool. That's what was in all the hip-hop videos. And my car was a 66 Plymouth Fury, big, huge car. Very much a hoopty, and very much what you might expect a black kid to be driving. I got it because it was a cheap car. Just so happened that it was cool. I thought it was cool anyway. And one of my good friends who I drove back and forth to school, we'll call him Joe. Joe was a black kid, and he was from a slightly more affluential family than I was. It's not saying much, but hey. I think we were both kind of sheltered from some of the realities in the world. And I thought at that point in time, I had a pretty good understanding of the history of America. I mean, I was a teenager, but as much as you can, I kind of understood the whole slavery thing, how slaves came to America, the Civil War, what it was really about. I knew why the state seceded. You know, they say slavery in the Articles of Secession. I understood the Reconstruction, Jim Crow, segregation. At least I thought I did. I thought I understood all that. And then as a teenager, when me and Joe were in my car one day, something happens that like shatters my understanding of everything I thought I knew about race relations in America. So I'll tell you the story. So I'm driving Joe home one day, and it's just he and I in the car, and we're driving through the village of Stone Mountain. It's a suburb, a bedroom community of Atlanta with some touristy stuff in it. Stone Mountain. Anyway, I always drove really slow. I was a very careful driver. I wasn't a hot rod or anything. And a cop pulls in behind us and gets right on our butt, right? And I've never been pulled over before. A Village of Stone Mountain police officer. And he tails us through several turns, like right on my butt. I'm like, it was making me nervous, right? And finally he lights up the blues and pulls me over. And back then they always came to your driver's side. So he comes to the driver's side of the car and, you know, gets way down close to me, and I expected cops to be rude, you know, professional, cold, distant, you know, cut and dry, curt, whatever. This guy was over the top. He was aggressive. And I was like kind of confused, like, are all cops like this? Like, I mean, this is the first time I've been pulled over. He wouldn't tell us why he pulled me over. Like, I asked him, like, what did I do wrong? And he wouldn't answer, you know? And he said, well, I'll ask the questions, that kind of thing. He was asking, where are you going? Where you been? What are you doing? What's in the car? We're like, you know, on the way home from school, man. Why are you so... Well, we didn't get it. Yeah, but we're very respectful, both of us. And after being on the side of the road for what seemed like forever, he lets us go. Doesn't charge me with anything, but lets us go. 1, 2, 3 weeks later, I don't remember. I mean, this was 30 years ago, but a couple of weeks later, another cop from the Village of Stone Mountain does the same thing. Pulls us over, kind of ugly with us, asks for license, registration, insurance, all that, asks for Joe's ID, never really explains why he pulls us over. And then finally lets us go. Well, this happened several times, right? And then the worst time it happened, and this was one time before I put a stop to it, a cop pulls us over, the original cop, and the original cop was maybe in his 50s. Pulls us over, pulls us out of the car, handcuffs us, frisks us, puts us in the back of the squad car, never tells us why he stopped us. Still, we don't have a clue why this is going on. Naive, right? I mean, now in today's world, you get it. Back then, it wasn't quite as publicized as it is today. Puts us in the back of the squad car, goes into my car, searches my car, pops the trunk, takes all our stuff out of the car, throws it in the ditch. So our schoolwork is blowing around. They actually took the spare tire out of the car, threw it in the ditch, like he's going through everything. And then after being on the road for what seemed like, close to an hour, maybe more, pulls us out, uncuffs us, gives us the what for, just, you better watch it, boys, and running his mouth, kind of threatening us, and tells us to get out of there. So we start, we got to clean up the ditch, and he leaves, and we're putting our stuff back in the car. Like, what the heck's going on? And right now you're thinking, oh, racist cop, the whole redneck, racist Southern thing, and this is what they do. And I was kind of suspicious that was it, but I wasn't really sold on that yet. I didn't know what was going on. And then the last time he pulled me over before I actually fought back legally, he pulls us over, and of course he comes to the driver's side of the car, and he's kind of more reserved at this point. Like, I guess he's figured out he's not going to get us to stop driving through the village of Stone Mountain. I lived there. That's what I'm thinking, because he's kind of more laid back. But he's still ugly. Asks for a license, insurance, registration, which by now he should have memorized. And then he goes to the passenger side where Joe is, right? Joe rolls the window down, or he already had it rolled down. And the cop leans in real close to Joe. I mean, like, close enough that when he spoke, the breath is on Joe's neck. And he says to Joe, "Why you in the car with him, boy?" And Joe didn't get it either. Joe's as naive as I am. Joe's like, he's how I get home. He's just giving me a ride home. We're friends. We go to school together. He's giving me a ride home. Then the cop kind of sits up a little bit, takes a breath. This is the part that I really remember perfectly clearly, is that first question. And then he leans in real close again and repeats it like this: "What are you doing in the car with him, boy?" They continued talking, but now it's clear to me this is really why we're being pulled over. Black kid, white kid in a car together. This is a big no-no. You're not allowed to hang out together. Now this is like 92, 91, somewhere around there. And it should have been old news by then, right? This is over by that point in my mind. Like, I thought this was done with the exception of little pockets. I didn't think it'd be in a bedroom community of Atlanta, Georgia, right? This should be over with. I mean, the school I went to, black kids and white kids hung out together, they dated, interracial, all that was cool, so I thought. But when he asked that question, my entire understanding of all of it was turned upside down. Slavery, the Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, black suffrage, equal rights, all that was just blown out the window. And right now you're probably thinking I really am super naive, but I've left a detail out of the story. And when I don't understand something, I get very curious. I don't want to live in an artificial, made-up world that doesn't make any sense. So when something big, I don't understand it, I want to understand it. I'm a very curious person. If you've watched my other videos, you've probably figured that out by now. I want to know how everything works. And when this question was asked, everything I understood as far as race relations was blown out the window. And it's because of the detail I left out. You see the detail, that 50-something-year-old cop wasn't some fat redneck white boy. It was a 50-year-old black man. Now, if it had been some sloppy redneck, it would have made sense to me. But this was like a black man saying that white kids can't be friends, can't ride in this car, not in his town. And I didn't understand why a black person would be enforcing the entrails of Jim Crow. So why is there so much black stuff on my channel? Well, I don't see it as black stuff. I don't see black history as black history. It's why I think Black History Month is stupid. Because how do you tell the story of America without black people being a huge part of it? And how do you tell the story of black Americans without the rest of the story of America? They're not separate entities, and they can't be separated. There's no way to tell black history without telling American history. There's no way to tell American history without telling black history. So if I'm interested in history, I'm obviously interested in both. They're not separate universes. People behave like black history is this thing and American history is this thing, like it's DC universe and Marvel universe, and they can't collide, they can't intermingle. Not only can they intermingle, they can't, it's the opposite, they can't be separated. They're one thing. When I post the videos on my main channel, like the All-American News stuff, the fact that you can go back and see video of how blacks were living and being portrayed in the 1940s, 80 years ago, to me is fascinating. I don't know if you guys saw the one about the Coast Guard soldiers. You had black and white Coast Guard soldiers, and this is the 1940s, where in the clip they show a black man tackling a white man in like sparring, fighting. And I know that had to be intentionally put in there, but the fact that that was happening, to me, that was kind of an eye-opener. So the whole idea that in the 40s blacks were over here and whites were over here, even back then that wasn't true. And you see some of the athletic competitions where blacks and whites are competing side by side, and we have this mindset that blacks lived over there and whites lived over here, and it wasn't true. It was never true. I don't know if you saw the video about black history where I found out through my own research that one of the biggest slave owners in South Carolina was a black man. Not only was he one of the biggest slave owners, he had one of the biggest operations, but he was also a slave breeder. My understanding of race is this stuff I find fascinating. So, because you're told these two stories. There's the white Southerner story, I guess, or three stories. There's the white Southerner story, where, you know, the Civil War wasn't about slavery, Civil War was about this and that, and that's partially true. There's the Northern story, or the broader American story that kind of has the clarity between why the war is being fought. And then there's this new, I don't know what you call it, like this black history that tries to portray blacks as nothing but angelic, flawless people. And all of it's maddening to me because the real truth is much more nuanced and much more interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of black stuff on my channel because, you know what, I find American history fascinating, and part of the thing that I find the most interesting are the things I didn't understand and didn't know. So yeah, look up Robert Smalls. I have a little bit about him. This is what's going to be on my new channel, is me exploring and discussing things that I find interesting and things that will get me blacklisted by YouTube. Because if you say keywords in a video, they're little robots, they're bots, will red flag your video. Every one of these All-American News videos, almost all of them take six weeks to go through YouTube censors. They censor them, they block them, you can't see them. So I don't even publish them. I go through the grievance process with YouTube to get them published. I know a lot of people don't find them very interesting. I find them fascinating. So anything where I'm speaking and I might say gun, abortion, rape, race, black people, white people, these are things that if you say them, you're going to get red flagged. They're not going to publish your videos. So that's going to be the new channel, is me talking in a format like this. It might be me in front of the tools. It might be me in my truck. We'll see. But hope you guys subscribe and join and follow and hit the bell so you can get notifications. I'm going to be doing a video before too long explaining why that stuff is very important to YouTubers like me, just so you understand why we're obnoxious, and we always say that in our videos. Anyway, I love you guys. God loves you more than I do, and I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll talk to you later. See you probably next week.